Imagine the year 1963. The United States is in the middle of the space race. Jet planes cross the sky. Jet technology is synonymous with the future, speed, and modernity. And in the midst of that technological frenzy, Chrysler Corporation does something completely audacious. It decides to put a turbine engine, like those in jet planes, inside an automobile. It was not just a concept on paper. It was not just an exhibition prototype destined to remain in museum display cases. It was a real, ambitious, almost reckless program. Manufacture 55 units of the Chrysler Turbine Car, then lend 50 of them to ordinary American drivers to test in real conditions for months and determine if this radical technology could become the future of personal transportation. The car itself was a masterpiece of design. Created by the legendary Elwood Engel, it had elegant and futuristic lines with subtle tail fins that evoked the jet age. The characteristic metallic bronze color seemed taken from a science fiction movie. Inside, the seats were red, luxurious, spacious. But what was truly special was under the hood. Or rather, what was not under the hood. The turbine car did not have a conventional piston engine. It had no conventional multi-spark ignition system, no distributor, and far fewer moving parts that could fail. Instead, it had a fourth-generation gas turbine developed by Chrysler after years of research, an elegant system that Chrysler called the A831, which generated 130 horsepower and could run on many fuels: diesel, kerosene, and even some vegetable oils. Chrysler even demonstrated it on unusual fuels, but warned that leaded gasoline could damage the turbine. The car came equipped with a TorqueFlite 3-speed automatic transmission, power steering, and power brakes. Everything expected from a modern luxury car. When you started the turbine car, you did not hear the traditional roar of an engine. You heard a soft, growing whistle, like an airplane about to take off. The sound was hypnotic, futuristic, completely unique. You accelerated, and instead of feeling gear changes or vibrations, you experienced smooth, continuous, almost ethereal acceleration. It was, in every sense, the automobile of tomorrow driving through the streets of the present. The idea of using turbines in automobiles was not new in 1963. Several manufacturers had experimented with the concept since the 40s. Rover in England, General Motors in the United States, even some independent designers had built prototypes. But no one had gone as far as Chrysler was about to go. The gas turbine offered impressive theoretical advantages over conventional piston engines. First, mechanical simplicity. Depending on how you count, a turbine could have as much as 80% fewer parts than an equivalent piston engine. Fewer parts meant fewer things that could break, less maintenance, potentially greater reliability. Second, operational smoothness. Without pistons going up and down, without violent explosions in cylinders, the turbine spun continuously, producing power consistently with minimal vibrations. Passengers reported that the turbine car felt incredibly refined, smoother than any conventional luxury car. Third, and perhaps most revolutionary, fuel flexibility. In an era where oil seemed abundant, but the future was uncertain, the idea of an engine that could burn practically anything was tremendously attractive. Chrysler publicly demonstrated the car running on diesel, on aviation fuel, even on vegetable oil. Fourth, the cold starting. Turbines didn't suffer the same cold weather hesitation as many piston engines, but the turbine car's startup procedure was unusual. An 8-step process more elaborate than a typical car, and some drivers needed time to get used to it. It was a technology that seemed to solve all the problems of the conventional internal combustion engine. Chrysler invested millions of dollars in development, built specialized laboratories, hired the best engineers. The company was convinced that turbines were the inevitable future of the automobile. And to prove it, they launched the most ambitious user program in American automotive history. Between October 1963 and January 1966, Chrysler selected 203 drivers in 133 cities across the United States to participate in the testing program. Each family would receive a turbine car for approximately 3 months, drive it in their normal daily life, and then return the car along with detailed reports of their experience. The selection was careful and democratic. There were doctors and teachers, engineers and housewives, people from California and New York, from Texas and Michigan. They were not professional testers or Chrysler employees. They were ordinary Americans who were given access to the automobile of the future. The public response was overwhelming. More than 30,000 people applied to participate. When selected families received their turbine cars, they instantly became local celebrities. Neighbors, friends, complete strangers asked to see it, hear it, touch it. Local newspapers published articles. Television stations sent cameras. And most families were fascinated. They reported that the car was smooth, quiet, powerful, that driving it felt like floating, that the sound of the turbine was addictive, something they never tired of hearing. Approximately 60% of users deeply enjoyed that distinctive whistle, though about 20% found it annoying. Many said they had never driven anything so refined. Chrysler documented everything meticulously. The cars accumulated more than 1 million miles in total during the program. They were driven in scorching deserts and freezing winters, on highways and rural roads, in dense urban traffic and on empty roads. It was field testing at its finest. But while the public fell in love with the concept, Chrysler engineers began to see worrying cracks in the turbine's golden armor. The first problem was fuel consumption. Although turbines were efficient at constant cruising speed, they were terribly inefficient in typical urban driving with stops and starts. The turbine car consumed approximately 12 to 13 miles per gallon in mixed conditions, significantly worse than many conventional cars of the era. At idle, the turbine continued consuming fuel constantly, unlike a piston engine that used very little. The second problem was lag in throttle response. When you pressed the accelerator in a conventional car, the response was almost instantaneous. In the turbine car, there was a noticeable delay, sometimes of 1 or 2 seconds, while the turbine accelerated to the speed necessary to generate more power. In urban traffic or when trying to pass, that lag could be dangerous. The third problem was heat. Turbines operated at extremely high temperatures, much higher than piston engines. This required special materials, complex cooling systems, and created durability challenges. Components degraded faster than expected. The fourth problem, and perhaps the most serious in the long term, was emissions. Although turbines produced less carbon monoxide than piston engines, they generated significant amounts of nitrogen oxides, especially at high temperature. And in the mid-60s, the United States was beginning to awaken to the air pollution crisis. California was implementing the first emission standards. Environmental regulation was arriving. The fifth problem was cost. Building an automotive turbine required exotic materials, special alloys, precision manufacturing. Each unit was significantly more expensive to produce than an equivalent conventional engine. And without massive economies of scale, those costs would never drop enough to compete commercially. And finally, there was the problem of maintenance and support. Mechanics across the country knew how to repair piston engines. There were decades of accumulated knowledge, millions of spare parts available, established training systems. Who was going to repair a turbine engine when it failed? Where would you get the parts? How would you train the technicians? By early 1966, when the testing program ended, Chrysler had to face an uncomfortable truth. The turbine car was a technological marvel, but it was not a commercially viable product. In 1966, Chrysler made a decision that seems incomprehensible from a modern perspective. It decided to destroy almost all the turbine cars. In April 1966, Chrysler issued the order to remove the cars from circulation, not sell them, not donate them, not preserve them, destroy them. Of the 55 cars manufactured, only 9 would survive. 46 would be sent to the scrapyard, cut into pieces, turned into scrap metal. The decision was documented by Harry E. Chesebrough, Vice President of Product Planning and Development at Chrysler. The order was clear. The cars had to be permanently removed from circulation. Why? The official reasons were multiple and complex. First, standard industry practice. Auto manufacturers traditionally did not allow experimental prototypes to remain in public hands. It was corporate policy to prevent potential legal liabilities. If a turbine car failed catastrophically years later and caused an accident, Chrysler could face devastating lawsuits. Better to eliminate the risk completely. Second, public relations concerns. Chrysler knew that maintaining these cars long-term would be problematic. Eventually, they would need specialized repairs that no one could provide. Spare parts that did not exist. When owners became frustrated, Chrysler would receive the blame and bad press. Better to end the program cleanly. Third, and here rumors and theories enter, were economic considerations related to the bodies. The beautiful bodies of the turbine car had been manufactured by Ghia in Italy, not in the United States. There were import regulations, potential tariffs, customs complications. Some point to import tariff theories tied to the Italian-built bodies, but historians widely debate that explanation. Fourth, Chrysler was pivoting. By the mid-60s, it became clear that coming emissions regulations would favor improvements in piston engines, not complex alternative technologies. The company decided to invest its research resources in cleaner and more efficient conventional engines. The turbine cars represented an abandoned path, a dead investment. Why keep reminders of a failure? The cars were gathered and the actual destruction came later. Most were crushed and burned, and one was destroyed at Chrysler's proving grounds, reportedly in a crash test. Not all were destroyed. 9 turbine cars escaped the corporate guillotine. Only 9 would survive. Chrysler retained a couple, most went to museums, and a rare few ended up in private hands, one famously associated with Jay Leno. Today, those 9 cars are invaluable treasures. When they appear at auctions or exhibitions, they attract crowds. They are tangible reminders of when Chrysler had the courage to try something truly radical. 60 years later, the question remains fascinating and disturbing. Why destroy them? If the turbine car was so advanced, so special, so visionary, why did Chrysler not preserve more? Why not donate them to engineering schools? Why not sell them to collectors with liability waivers? Why the deliberate and systematic destruction of 46 unique machines? The official answer about import tariffs has been questioned by historians. Some argue that Chrysler could have paid the tariffs, that they were not prohibitively high. Others point out that there were legal ways to donate the cars to educational institutions or museums without triggering import obligations. The legal liability explanation sounds plausible but incomplete. Other manufacturers have allowed prototypes to survive without facing catastrophic consequences. Ford did not destroy all its GT40 prototypes. GM preserved numerous experimental concept cars. Perhaps the truth is more mundane and darker. Perhaps Chrysler simply wanted to erase the evidence of a failed project. The turbine cars represented millions of dollars spent, years of development invested, and ultimately, nothing commercially viable. They were embarrassing reminders of ambition that exceeded reality, or perhaps there were competitive considerations. In 1966, the American automotive industry was under growing pressure from Japanese and European imports. Chrysler faced financial challenges. Preserving expensive experimental technology that would never generate returns made no business sense. The irony is that the turbine car, in its failure, probably advanced the industry more than if it had been a commercial success. The lessons learned from the program informed decades of automotive development. Research in heat-resistant materials, understanding of aerodynamic design, experience with extensive user testing. All of that had lasting value, and the turbine car became legend. Because it was destroyed, because it is so rare, because it represents a path not taken, it captures the imagination in a way that 55 surviving routine cars never could. Jay Leno, the famous car collector, owns one of the 9 survivors and occasionally drives it at public events. Each appearance generates headlines. Crowds gather. The sound of the turbine remains magical, even 60 years later. Today, with the automotive industry pivoting toward electric vehicles, the turbine car seems strangely prophetic. It was an attempt to leap beyond the conventional piston engine towards something fundamentally different. It failed, but the ambition was correct. The future would eventually require abandoning established technology. The 46 destroyed turbine cars represent more than lost cars. They represent a corporate mentality that values control over preservation, zero risk over historical heritage. How many other revolutionary prototypes have been quietly destroyed by nervous manufacturers? How many alternative technological paths were cut off before being fully explored? How many possible futures were sent to the scrapyard because they did not fit short-term business plans? The turbine car did not fail because the technology was fundamentally flawed. It failed because it arrived at the wrong time, at the wrong company, in the wrong economic circumstances. With more time, more investment, more commitment, perhaps it could have been refined, improved, made viable. But Chrysler did not have that time or commitment. And when they decided the experiment was over, they not only ended it, but erased the evidence. 9 survivors remain, beautiful and melancholic reminders of when Detroit dreamed of putting jets on highways. 46 were sacrificed to corporate pragmatism, their stories ending in scrap presses instead of in collectors' garages. The question persists, resonating through decades. If it was so special, why destroy it? And the answer, uncomfortable and revealing, may simply be because they could. Because it was easier than explaining. Because dead dreams are easier to bury than to preserve. The 9 surviving turbine cars whistle softly in museums, permanent witnesses to ambition, innovation, and the corporate decision to destroy their own history. And somewhere in some alternative reality, 55 of these extraordinary cars still roam the streets, their jet sound reminding us that the future once looked very different.